Hello from a rather rainy Huntsville, Alabama, and the headquarters of Here Technologies. We hope you're enjoying the 2021 Winter NAMM show. I know there's a lot of really great stuff out there to see, and we appreciate you taking your time and coming to be with us for a little while. We've been talking mainly about our HearBack products as far as our personal monitoring systems, and today we're going to talk about something different. We have a new line called the Switch Back line, which can be used as a monitor, but is actually an interface, and a really high quality interface, especially with 2 preamps and everything else. So we're not just a destination with this. It's actually, you can have inputs and outputs and the ability to route and mixes the way, whatever you want to do. It's called the Matrix, and we're going to let Nason give it a go.
So yeah, we decided that we ought to give this a different name. It's not a HearBack because it's more than just a personal monitor mixer. It is a personal monitor mixer, but it is also an interface, meaning that you've got inputs. It is a Dante-only device, and today we're going to talk about both Dante in general, especially how it can be used in a home recording studio, podcast type environment. And also we'll talk about the Switch Back Matrix because it is our Dante device. There is no hub. It basically is just a standalone device that works on a Dante network, and you can send and receive audio. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the Dante side real quick. And so I'm going to show my computer here. This is actually what we've been using during the show so far to play our tracks, and we've got Ableton Live here is what we're actually using to play the Camaro song. We've got all the stems playing there, and what we're doing is we're actually using, now I don't know if I can look at this or not, but we're actually using a special sound card driver called the Dante Virtual Sound Card, and it lets us do up to 32 inputs and 32 outputs going just in and out of the computer's Ethernet port. It is a gigabit connection. So there is no additional hardware. Your laptop or your desktop computer can basically send and receive 32 channels of audio. Now, all I've done is I've chosen, actually, we've got it set up as an aggregate device, which if you're familiar with Apple products, that's a device that you can create that it contains multiple drivers. So we actually, I think in part of this is we've got a Motu as part of the aggregate device, but 32 in and out are going to the virtual sound card. The virtual sound card, what that looks like, it's basically just a very simple little program that runs, and you basically just have the ability to choose some latency and what network interface you're using, and that's it. Once you start that, it just shows up to your computer like it's a hardware sound device. So that's how we're getting all of these tracks out of our computer, and then what we do is we're using another program called Dante Controller, which this is what allows you to choose where your audio is going. So inside this software, you basically are going to have your devices show up as a transmitter and a receiver. So transmitting devices are along the top, receiving devices are along the side. We have a question?
Can you use the program on a Linux desktop?
You know, I'm not sure about that with Dante. I know that there's Windows. I know that there's a Mac version. I would have to look into that. I'm definitely not a Dante expert, but I would think yes, because with Mac OS X, it's basically, it's a flavor of Unix, so I would think that they probably do, but I'd have to check on that. You could check out audinate.com right now if you get a chance. And Dante Controller actually is free software. You do have to register, but that's easy. Just basically, put in your email address. So back to controller. If you have some devices that are only transmitters or only receivers, they may only show up on the top for transmitters or the side for receivers. All of our devices that we have here do both, so they're showing up in both places. Like Here is my demo matrix that I have over here on the document camera as a transmitter, and it's also over here as a receiver. My MacBook Pro is a transmitter. I can hit the plus sign to expand it, or you can use the plus sign here to basically expand everything. And I could hit the plus sign over here to expand all my receivers. And then basically you can scroll down, you can see what is routed where. For example, my computer is sending channel 9, 10, 11, 12 to this Switch Back matrix that's over here on channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we've got a little green check box, meaning that we've got a successful route. Otherwise, you'd have a little red circle with a cross through it if there's a problem, or a little warning sign if audio is working, but maybe you've got some latency problems, or if the device has disappeared off the network, that'll happen too. Now, one important thing about this is that you do have to have a clocking master. This is all digital audio. Audio works off of a clock. It's very much like the shutter speed on a camera. It's clocking those samples of audio into the digital realm and taking snapshots of the audio. In order for multiple devices to do this, they have to be synchronized. Otherwise, you get pops and clicks. So, what we're going to look at here is there's a tab called the clock status, and we've got basically are 4 devices that show up, and you can see which one of them is the master, and you can also, I really probably should designate one of these as a preferred master. I will point out you cannot have a computer as a clock master. It's just not possible, so that's kind of why there's an NA there. But the Matrix can be a clock master, or any other device that you have that's a Dante device should also be able to be a clock master. If you're coming from another domain like AES, ADAT, something like that, we make another product called the Waves Bridge, and it's a bridge of 64 channels in and out, back and forth between Dante and Wave SoundGrid. Also, we have a MADI card that we're about to release, and if you're coming from another domain, then you would actually use what's called enable sync to external. So that would mean that your clock is coming from another source, like AES EBU, or could be coming from Wave SoundGrid, somewhere else. So when you have one setup, even if it consists of multiple audio protocols, there is only going to be one clock for everything. Otherwise, you'll have problems. So it's a good idea if you have kind of a complex setup with multiple protocols and things, to kind of map it out, to draw where is your master clock, where is it coming from, how does it feed the other audio domains. So for what we're doing here, it's very simple. We basically just have a computer, and we have one or more matrices, and we're going to basically allow one of those matrix mixers, or interface rather, to be the master. Right now, this one is my left, and I could lock it in and say that it's my preferred master. I'll go ahead and do that. There are some other settings in here. If you double click on one of these devices, or you can also go into the device view, either way, you can bring up settings. And one of the most important things to take a look at is under device configuration. You want to take a look at what your sample rate is, because you're not going to be able to route anything unless all your devices are at the same sample rate. They don't change. So if you change your sample rate on one device, you need to make sure it's also set the same on the other devices, because they don't necessarily follow. Even if it's the clock master, your other devices are not necessarily going to change sample rates automatically. So you'll want to make sure that each of these is set at the same, and I'm at 48K. Once you're in device view, you can actually, this is a nice shortcut, you can drop down and you can change to another device. So if you have the wrong sample rate set, I will say that and I accidentally did I X out completely? I did. Reopen Dante controller. You're not going to be able to route audio. So when you're on this screen where you're routing audio, if you try to route and you're at the wrong sample rate, you're not going to get the little green checkbox. You're basically not going to be able to click in that until you're at the same sampling rate. So basically, once you got the clock defined and you're at the same sampling rate, you should be up and running. It's pretty much plug and play, and the devices remember. So if you unplug power, they're going to come back up and they're going to remember what was routed to them before. So it's kind of a thing where in most cases you might be able to just go ahead and set it and forget it, and close the software, and you may not have to come back in here unless you make changes. So I guess at this point, I'm going to show you the Switch Back Matrix. We've got some audio routed to it. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hook one up. We've got one here on the document camera, and I'll show you the process of hooking that up and kind of going through, exactly what it can do. So you've got a Cat 6 cable here, and this is your power, which is power over Ethernet, and it's also your Dante. So I'm going to plug that in. You're going to see the little light come on as it boots up. It kind of goes through and changes colors. Now, as far as powering this thing, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. We have an injector, PoE injector, which is this guy right here. It's actually a power supply to start with, just your kind of your standard power supply. And then it's a little Y cable, and actually this is kind of a separate piece here, just your standard DC barrel. And then you've got a RJ45 female and then an RJ45 male. So all this does is it allows you to feed power. Kind of think of it like it's phantom power for that device. So you can power this thing up. You basically can plug this into your computer or to a network switch and then run a cable out to your matrix, and then this will provide power to it. Or you can use a PoE network switch, which we've got one actually. It's the Pro distro, and originally this was for our the Hearback Pro mixers, but we said, hey, you know what? It's a gigabit Ethernet switch. It's got PoE plus power, 8 ports. This thing can also be used for the matrix as well. And you basically have your power there and your uplink port. So that's kind of a 9th port. This doesn't have power on it, whereas these 8 here have power. So you can have up to 8 matrix interfaces plugged in. You can even take a cable and daisy chain from one of these to another. It's a nice durable aluminum box. We also sell it in black. So
PoE Plus is definitely recommended.
Yeah, PoE Plus is for anything above 15 watts, up to 30, I believe. You can power, this thing will power up with regular PoE power, but if you really start cranking that headphone amplifier up, you could potentially lose power. The switch could go into protections, because you're drawing too much current. So PoE Plus is really the way to go. Talking about the headphone amplifier, this is the exact same OPA 551 headphone amp circuit that is in our Hearback Pro, our original Hearback mixer, the Hearback Octo. They're all the same headphone circuit, so very punchy, powerful, 5-watt combined output power into the headphones. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some audio going here. I've got a feed that's going to feed out to you, so you should hopefully hear this. And this is normally where you plug your headphones in, but of course it is also designed as an unbalanced stereo line output. So you can use that to feed other audio gear if you want. So if I turn this up, you should have some audio. Are you getting that? All right. So what we have here is we've got 3 channels, but these are not all equal. You've got a mono channel, and then a stereo channel. And actually you have concentric knobs. So you've got these red ones here, and then you've got these blue ones here. The blue ones are local inputs. You have a mic line input, another mic line input, these are mono, and then you have a stereo unbalanced line input. So these are on the back. There is your input A. It can be a TRS line from an instrument, or it can be a microphone. It's got 48 volt switchable phantom power. You've got another one of those here. These are studio quality mic preamps. Then you've got a unbalanced stereo input here for C. That's a fixed input. It's kind of set up to C about negative 10 dBu. So those come in here and you can mix them to your own set of headphones. Then these actually also go out to the Dante network. So they're available to somebody else that's on the network. You could route it to one or more matrix interfaces. You could route it to your computer to do recording. You could route it to a larger sound console. Any Dante-equipped device will be able to receive these inputs here. Then, coming back from the Dante network into the matrix, we have these red rings here on each knob. And again, it's a mono, and then a stereo. So that comes back over the network. And actually, what you're hearing right now are feeds. So if I turn these down, you should have nothing now. And if I turn this up, I believe that's vocals. Is that right? Click. Okay. So that's, okay, pretend that you're a vocalist. This is going to be your click track. All right. And then you've got your vocals. And then you've got the rest of the band here. Now, say you want something different. Maybe you don't want click. Let's show you how to do that. I'll go back over here to the computer. And I know that I have got, I'm going to bring, there's my demo. I'm feeding 9, 10, 11, 12 into that thing. This is where my click is. I'm going to put bass there. I know that's over here on this. So now you have bass guitar. Are you getting the bass now? Okay, so we've changed that. Very simple change. Now, what I'm going to show you is I'm now going to take and I'm going to hook in a microphone to one of these other matrix interfaces, and then I'm going to route it over here onto this knob right here. So right here we have our cool little condenser microphone. We're giving 10 of these away, by the way. If you sign up for a one-to-one session, your name gets entered to win one of these things. They're a cool little mic. They sound pretty decent. So I'm going to plug this into this matrix here. And I am going to come back over to the software, and I am going to take my left matrix channel number 1, and I'm going to feed it into my demo mixer number 1. So now, can you hear me through this microphone? So that is now transmitting from this matrix that we have right here over to the one that's on the document camera. So we actually have two different matrix interfaces working together right now. So you could also do another one. We could take another feed from another matrix interface and also send it there. So you can do a lot of point-to-point. We recently had somebody tell us about using one of these things for production. What they did was they actually used they were a boom operator, and they used one of these for their boom microphone. It's got a very high quality mic pre, so their boom microphone plugged right into the interface, and they could listen to their boom mic feed locally through the powerful headphone amplifier. Then that boom mic became available as a Dante device, so they could send it anywhere on their network. Also, they got some feeds back from the director, so the director came back in on one of the fold-back feeds. So you could really do some very cool stuff like this for video production, and podcasting is a big thing because you can simply have one matrix interface with your laptop, and you could start with one, and then if you grow, it's as easy as just buying another matrix interface. You're not stuck with the inputs of one device. You can simply just buy more devices. They're all networked together. So one device is going to give you two mic, high quality mic pre's, and then you're going to be able to mix in some audio, and you're going to be able to monitor yourself. So using virtual sound card on a computer along with the matrix, and you're basically good to go for doing podcasting. Also, of course, broadcast, kind of the same idea. You've got the ability to have inputs, the monitoring capability, and then even the ability to do some of these channels for intercom purposes, a director's feed, that kind of thing. So it's a super versatile device, not only for small setups, but actually, I'll tell you, the very first customer that we shipped these to, when these first started shipping from the factory, by the way, they're made in the U.S., in Ohio, so this is a U.S.-made product. We shipped 90 of these things to Australia, and they were doing a Guinness Book of Records largest live variety show, and they had 90 of these things. We shipped them down there. We never heard anything from them until actually I think it was NAMM, this NAMM show last year in Anaheim. The guy actually came up to us and told us, hey, by the way, it worked great. We didn't have any fail. Every single one of those 90 worked perfectly. And it was for their orchestra, so they could plug all their microphones in. They could do the monitoring there. And I think they said they even had that, they were using so many Dante devices, they ended up having to have 2 different Dante domains because there were so many devices. But it worked great for them. That is one thing that we really do tout, is that we are very, very reliable. We see very little failures on the stuff we do, because we really try to do a good job designing this stuff and building it here in the States. So going back to the one over here on the document camera, I want to show you a few more things. Down here on the bottom, where you've got your microphone inputs, below it there's a button. This button is your input gain. So when I hit this, you're going to see a light come up there. You've got 9 different gain steps from 30 to 54 dB. And if I hit that button, it's that port. Now, if I go over here to this one, you see it's the same lights, but it just, the first time you hit it, it just shows you where you're at. So if I keep kind of going back and forth, it's not going to change. It just says, okay, second time you hit it, it goes up. Now, if you hold it, you saw that light come on. That's phantom power. So pushing and holding for a couple seconds. And it saves to flash memory. So if you unplug and plug back in, it's going to come back up where you left it. The other thing you can do is you can hold these 2 buttons and you can change your color. So if you, for identification purposes, you can be, red, whatever you want, any color in the spectrum. So you can say, okay, the guitar player's got green and the drummer's got blue, that kind of thing. It's just a neat way to color code. These things are also remote controllable. We have a piece of software we're working on releasing that will be for Windows and Mac that allow you to remote control the gain. So you can pick from those 9 different gain settings. You can turn phantom power on and off remotely. You can change the color. You can also identify. One thing I'll show you, if I go over to first bring up the computer, I'm going to bring up the demo device here, and Dante has this identify feature right here. It's this little icon with the eye. If I click this, if you go back over to the document camera, then you see the little light. It's kind of blinking, going through its colors. So that's basically saying, hey, who has that mixer? And then you can kind of go look for that. So it's going through ID mode. So there's a number of things that you can control remotely. You can also, let me show you this. I'm gonna actually unplug this power, and I'm going to hook it in while holding the 2 buttons. And what that does is I can pick, once I do that, I can pick red or green. If I pick red, it means that the device is now locked. So I can no longer use these local buttons. You don't trust the person using it. You don't want them getting into the gain and into the phantom power. So you can lock that out and only control it remotely. So that's a really cool little feature. We added that. That was actually a suggestion, I think, from one of the customers. They said, we first released it, we said, oh, wow, actually, that's a great idea. We don't necessarily always want the talent getting into those buttons and changing the gain, because that changes it not only to them and their headphones, but also to anything that's it's being sent to over the Dante network. So I think that covers just about everything that we wanted to cover with this, right?
Just about. Basically, it's so small. We even offer it with a belt clip.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually just, put it on your belt.
So
walk around.
Right here on the bottom is a standard camera thread, and we ship it with a little metal clip that will screw in there, and it's a belt clip, so this can go onto your belt. Or, as you can see, we also over here have these things mounted using a little thread adapter that we provide with it. That thread adapter takes it to a standard microphone thread.
5/8.
And then we've got these really cool mic stands from Triad Orbit there. But I guess, do we have any questions?
One question I get a lot is, will this thing, or one question that, or one problem is, this thing, the Matrix will not link at a gig.
No. So currently we're using the Ultimo chip from Dante, and it is 100 megabit. So we have looked at using, they did come out with another chip called the Broadway, and we're looking to possibly upgrade to that, which would link at a gig. So right now it's 100 megabit, but if you plug that into a gigabit switch, it's going to link. It's just going to link at 100 megabit instead of a gig. So I'll also announce that we are starting to work on a Wave SoundGrid version of this thing. So that's going to be coming out later this year. It's going to be exactly the same chassis and everything, but just instead of Dante, it'll be Wave SoundGrid. Yeah. So that's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would use this thing. I mean, we did give some examples.
Gamers.
Gamers is another one. But I mean, the example of them using it for the live variety show of 90 piece orchestra, you know, that shows you kind of a large scale down to just a single matrix for podcasting or a boom operator. You know, there's a lot of applications.
Or a couple of them with your computer at home.
Are you going to be coming out with rack mount unit?
So the question is, are we going to be coming out with a rack mount unit? Actually, that is the first I've heard of that idea. So, that's interesting. We'll definitely add that to our list.
Well, we had the cord, remember, the under the table?
Now we do, we do actually have a plan to do an installed version of this, which would be this kind of the same thing that we have here, but it would be a metal box that could potentially mount under a conference table. So it'd be a little more for like installed sound applications. We would probably add a couple of things to that. We would have discrete outputs instead of just a mixer with the headphone out. We would have that, but we'd also have some discrete outputs. We might even also add some things like RS-232 and some contact closure, things like that could be used for more integrated kind of install type use. So.
Man, you must have covered it
really
well.
Really.
I'm sitting here trying to think of something you forgot.
We must have answered all of your questions since
you did a good job.
We're not, and you can always request a one-on-one if you think of something later that we could talk about, answer. I guess the thing is that this thing is really just very, very powerful, small, versatile. It's got the very powerful headphone amplifier that we have in all of our products. So it's a great little unit, really, for a lot of different applications. And we keep finding more applications that, like Max mentioned earlier, the gaming. That was a really kind of interesting thing. In fact, I was like, how in the world are they going to use that for gaming? But what I didn't realize is that there are these big tournaments that they do where they need to have the game audio as well as kind of intercom audio with other people. And so something like this would work great because it's all networked. You could even route that audio long distances using VPN tunneling. So, you know, it doesn't have to all be within one building. It could be a much wider area if you get into doing VPN and things like that.
Man.
All right. Well, I think our time's about up. We've only got 30 minutes and we're down to about 40 seconds. So if you do think of anything that you want to ask us, feel free to reach out on our social media, email, visit our website at heartechnologies.com. You can also chat with us here on the Believe in Music app. So anyways, thanks for stopping in and checking us out.
We appreciate it.
We'll be on later tonight at 5 p.m. Central Time. See you guys.